Because you basically rode on this wave, this universal wave that's been taking you down.
Yeah.
Um, how did you start your business? I mean,
Yeah, good question. It all grew organically. So um, I just innocently, honestly, just, my first step was, my dream would be just to go out and in naivety, go out in the middle of the night and help somebody's horse somewhere that was suffering, bit of the James Herriot sort of feel to it. And then people wanted to be trained. So I thought, okay, so I did some classes. I remember Fragrant Earth, Yankees Merrick, he asked me to do my first lecture. And I remember being terrified. And of Jan, I had known from America because I did actually used to distribute to surrender oils in the very early days. And I don't know how I got to know Fragrant Earth, but I did. So I came back to England. He said, Caroline, I've got a class for you in Somerset. And I was terrified. I just said, I did the morning, and I said, Jan, I don't think I could go on in the afternoon. Can you just go on stage and talk about lavender or something? He said, no, Caroline, you've got to get back on stage. And so it took, after 4 times, I loved it. I got the buzz from lecturing, and I really, 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 really loved teaching. So people would say, would you teach? So I would teach. And then it got more and more, and they wanted a school. And I seem to always sort of think I should be accommodating everyone. If they said they want a school, I just kind of do a school. I don't know why. I think I was just so excited that people were wanting to learn, but they'd only seem to want to learn if they got a certificate. So I thought, okay, well then I have to do a certificate. I had no idea anything involved in how to set up and run a school. And then lots of demands were being made, and if there was, it's and I my first little house that I could afford in Hay-on-Wye was literally a one up, one down. So I had one room downstairs and a bathroom, a tiny little kitchen, and tiny little room for me, which I could put one bed in, and the kids shared a room. And so I was sort of having half my work, it was on my table, and the other half was the kids where they would eat. And so where's it taking me? But so I was finding it really challenging because I felt I was really, everybody's wanting quite a lot, and handouts and printed things, and into the bargain. I have dyslexia, so I'm rubbish at spelling, and then I get really upset if there's a spelling mistake. And I was thinking, whoa, and it began to take off, and it was, and then I sort of put a course together, but I really made a rod for my own back. There was a lot of marking to do, and it was very difficult to see how people were working through writing, because you can write anything you want. If you're a good writer, you might win me over, because you can say whatever you want. How am I going to know unless I'm seeing that person individually? So I found that really challenging, because it wasn't well known enough that I could have enough animals to really test people individually. And every animal was so different. Some were super easy, some were much more difficult. So it was becoming more and more challenging with my course. And my other business, in the early days, I used to cut out printed pieces of paper and stick my labels on with sellotape. And it wasn't that long from my house, and I'm rubbish at maths, so I don't have, anyway, I don't know how it ever took off. Anyway, so Martin came into my life, thank God, because I was so exhausted. I had 2 companies. I used to basically work with one company answering emails, to the teaching at weekends or whenever, and then at 6 o'clock I would stop, and then I'd begin the essential oil company at 6 through to 2 in the morning. So I was exhausted, and Martin came into my life, and thank goodness rescued me, because I think I was on burnout. I was so tired, and he just put everything into shape. And I got label printing machines, and website done that was much more efficient, and where they added all the oils up on the website, and really turned it into a professional company. And then the school, I kept on going with that for a little longer, trying to improve it all the time. But in the end, I just thought, I think I'm going to I'm going to help more if I can get out to the world. And so I spent the last 5 years just traveling everywhere where I could get to so many people. Yeah, I could get to so many people and spread the word that animals could heal themselves instead of just, 24 people, because it takes a long time teaching someone, because, every animal is so case sensitive, and it's such a huge responsibility running a school. And then you've got to be a headmistress in many ways. You've got to, do a code of ethics, and, and then that sort of cut into me being able to do other work that I was really passionate about, which is really get this work out to everyone. And I guess if I was to sum it up, it would be that I want people to have the information on how to take responsibility for themselves, their children, and their animals, so their hands aren't tied. They know how to heal themselves, they know how to heal their animals, they know how to heal their children. And yet, when it gets to an advanced stage, or perhaps it's something very acute, then you've got there's the vet, there's the doctor. But it's at those times when either it's in between, it's not quite bad enough to go to the vet or the doctor, but if you leave it, it will get worse. That's a good time to use the oils. Situations where it's chronic, where very often medication is the way to just support the individual, but not through that whatever condition they're suffering from, it helps them manage it, but it doesn't cure it. And so that's where coming into looking at the oils and looking at ways to get to the root of problems, and then I guess using it to find out why that poor animal or that poor dog is bouncing off the walls, has extreme separation anxieties, and what must they be feeling to have that extreme behavior? And then maybe they have to be go through training because they think it's a behavioral problem. It might be they've got a horrible migraine or pinched nerves, and it would be really difficult to go through training when you're not feeling great. So my message to behaviours who initially used to think that I was trying to take their place, and I met a lot of resistance there, they now understand that my message, that if the animal is feeling well, just like if we're feeling well, it's much easier to train them. And so they're going to get much better results. It's not, I'm in competition, I'm not in competition with anyone. My message is just, this is the way to find out if your animal needs help, because they can't speak and they can't tell us other than changing their behavior.
Because you use oils, and I've met people who tell me, why is this oil more expensive than this other brand? For instance, brand A versus brand B. And they will tell me like, you can buy it from the supermarket, from the pharmacy, on the aisle. And they say, why is it so cheap compared to, say, a different brand that might be 3, 4, 5 times more expensive?
I suppose, do you want me to answer that question?
Yes, please.
Okay. I suppose it's the life force within the oil. So basically, let's say, if you're buying a therapeutic oil, it might stay in the vat, in the distillation process for longer. So say it takes another 2 hours to get the heavier molecules up. Well, those molecules might be very important in the healing process of that animal, what that animal needs to select to bring itself back into health. So you get the cheaper oils, and the distillation process is probably going to be a lot shorter. So it will be much less diverse in its therapeutic efficacy than an oil that has gone through a longer distillation. Or it could be it's organic or wild crafted, which means, again, it will have not only a greater diversity in its therapeutic action, so it's going to help the animal get better much more efficiently. It's also, going to have phytochemicals in it that are going to be much more active if they're organic than non-organic, because anything that has a pesticide not only you've got the pesticide, but also that plant isn't as robust because it doesn't have to defend itself. So when you get the plants that are organic, for example, it's going to be much more alive with its photoactive, efficiency. Also, it could be made from old peppermint leaves or something. It could be from the perfume industry, that's something left over, so it's old and it's lost its life force. Case in point, my course last weekend, I had two devil's claws, and one was a powder that was pre-powdered, and the other one was a devil's claw that I had ground, so it's almost like freshly ground coffee. Or some of the dogs only selected the ground and wouldn't touch the other one, and others maybe had a few licks of the not so fresh one, but took all of the fresh one. So I get feedback that, and I've seen it myself, if it's, for example, carrot seed, I've had a cheaper carrot seed and the animals aren't selecting it, but the wild carrot seed they do. And I found this out much earlier on, because in my day, the oils were really, pure, because there wasn't loads of companies, there wasn't, lots of, aromatherapy wasn't big, it was tiny when I began training in it. And so people didn't dilute oils or cut them with other natural products which are cheaper, so they can say it's natural. So you get neroli, but you maybe add some orange because it's from the same tree. Then you're going to make a lot of profit, but you can still call it natural because they are both natural. So, but I began to notice I wasn't getting the same results, and I did think, well, am I losing my touch? And then a friend of mine who's a scientist, she said that in the essential oil scientist, she said, oh, you gotta check out this company's oils, they're therapeutic, human grade, doctors use them in France. And I was getting results again. So it's either the animal's not going to select it, so you're totally lost because everything's pointing to them selecting carrot seed and you've got no alternative. It's just you've got rubbish carrot seed, so they're not going to select it. Or it means you don't get them as well as you could do.
So basically, to be able to provide this level of care of to allow the animals to do self-medication, you actually have to provide high quality, ideally organic or wild crafted, if that's the right term, and therapeutic grade ingredients.
Yeah, and also, some of the companies we use are really small growers, and there's so much love that goes into the oil, like our time, but they can't afford an organic certificate. They're just a really small family business. It's really expensive to go through all of that. So in that case, we call it artisan, because it's from a small family grower, and there is no pesticides, but it's just very expensive. So it's sort of to go through the organic procedures. Then I got non-organic carrot seed, which is rich in carotol. That works well for liver problems because it's got a lot of carotol in it. Whereas my wild carrot seed doesn't have any carotol in it. So the oil that saved my dog's life was rich in carotol. So, but it's still from a good quality grower, but it's not organic, but it does have the constituent I'm looking for. And I can't find this constituent in the organic oil. I haven't found a supplier that does that. Wow. And I get the breakdown. So it's really knowing, your oils, or trusting your supplier, really. And it's like the German chamomile. There was somebody in my course, and the German chamomile had gone blue-green, sort of a greeny blue, and the horse wouldn't select it. But then they picked up mine, which was blue, ink blue, which is what it should be like, and the horse took it. So it's going to be impossible to work with bad quality oils if you're wanting to heal an animal.
Wow. It's a lot to take in, and I'm savoring everything that you've shared today, because it's it's very meaningful in so many ways. When what would you say you're most proud of in your whole journey to date today?
I suppose I'm most proud of the fact that so many people have embraced self-medication, and so many animals are being helped because of it.
And what would you, if you could, what would you like your legacy to be?
As in,
if what would your gift to the world?
hopefully that people, this will be a way of life. That people will have a kit of remedies, and they've got their own pharmacy, and they can find out what the animal needs to bring itself back into health. And it's not just essential oils. It's amazing what else can be achieved as well. I was working with my dog recently, so this is a new string to my bow, and she had she's got a condition, fungulosis of the rear end, which is a common German Shepherd problem. And normally she would need to be on antibiotics and steroids. She doesn't do well on veterinary medicine. She's had it twice. It really knocked her out. And so she just doesn't do well on it. So I thought, okay, no, she's not going on antibiotics the rest of her life or steroids. We're going to find another way. She was selecting oils, which she does anyway. She's an elderly dog. She's got, she was a rescue. She's had a really tough time. So she selects anti-cancer oils every now and again, and then she stops. She turns into a puppy. Maybe 4 months later, she'll have another pickup of her anti-cancer oils, and then she's a puppy again. And she goes in ebbs and flows. So she's feeling a bit down for oils. And anyway, so yeah, but she had this condition. So I thought, okay, it's constitutional. I'm going to look at homeopathy. I don't know anything about homeopathy, but I do have some homeopathic remedies around the house. So I looked up on the internet, okay, what's this condition? And I saw a couple of remedies, and I went down and see if I could help her. And she inhaled them. She licked at the belladonna, and I thought, okay, you want that by mouth? And she took 2 belladonnas and became really peaceful. A couple of the others, she just wanted to, she worked with just like an essential oil. So she blows into the bottle, like she would essential oil. You see her whole body language come down, and her eyes go really heavy. And you just see the breathing changes. And this is just inhalation. And I'm thinking, wow, what dosage are you getting with just inhaling? Is that a stronger dose as far as homeopathy goes? So anyway, so then I spoke to my friend Tim, the vet in Sussex. And I said, Tim, got anything you can do for this condition? He said, yeah. He said, look, I'll send some gunpowder down because it's a key remedy. So I thought, okay, great. So gunpowder came in the post. So I offered it to Lexi. And when I offered it, she reacted as if it was the worst essential oil she had ever smelled. She jumped back and turned her head. And I thought, really? From something that doesn't smell? You've really got that response? And anyway, Tim said it was good. So, but she doesn't want it. So that says to me, okay, she's maybe not ready for it right now. So I'm just going to offer it every day. And then after a few days, she took it and she wanted to take 2 by mouth. And now it's her standard remedy that she takes. And sometimes she just wants to inhale it, and she goes very deep and sleepy with it. She's also working with the essential oils. So it basically, everything in the human, everything is sort of, many of the therapies are human led. Even how we should work with homeopathy, it shouldn't be done, homeopathy shouldn't be done with essential oils, or or essential oils should be taken this way or that way. It's all somebody's decided to put red tape around it. But the animals were very, very clear, and she was working with carrot seed and lemon and homeopathy, and she got better. So, so all those people who say the oils don't go with homeopathy, they did. and they got her better. So, you know, and I look at people who say we shouldn't take oils by mouth. Well, primates do, and we're not too dissimilar. And if they want it by mouth, they get the cloth, they dunk it in the water, and they suck on it. Or if they want it topically, they rub it on them. You know, it's us who's put all these rules, and we just, you know, and there hasn't been that much clinical testing, really. It's to put all this red tape around, and you know, you can never put rose in the same bracket as clove or garlic, and it depends what condition that individual's suffering from, you know, as I said, what species they are, you know, and then their individuality, like a fingerprint, you know, how do they respond to essential oils? Do they need a stronger dose or a weaker dose for their condition and their physiology? So it's very much sort of individualized medicine is what I practice. So I wouldn't say I'm an aromatherapist, because I don't work like an aromatherapist. I wouldn't say I'm a herbalist, even though I work with herbs, because I'm not a herbalist. I wouldn't say I'm a homeopath, because I now work with homeopathic remedies. I would say I work with self-medication. I read animals and see what they select to bring themselves into health.
That's amazing. You know, I think what you have is truly a gift, you know, and for you, you know, I would love to one day be able to visit you in person and attend a course of yours in person, because, you know, I remember Dr. Shelton was like, yeah, she was in awe of the course that she attended with you. You know, she had such great respect for the work that you did. And I think this will be like one of the wish lists that I have, is to one day be able to visit you and attend one of your courses live, you know, just
well, it'd be lovely to have you there.
yeah, it's you know, which reminds me, how has COVID treated your business and your life in general?
Okay. I was just going to go back one step with the things, you know, going into the more scientific. I do now have a scientific writer from, you just reminded me of it, from Harvard, who wants to follow my work and submit it to different, you know, scientific magazines. So that's great. So it's now sort of getting respected just in the scientific communities, which is good, because it is a science and it can be explained. How's it work, COVID? COVID was, in a way, a really good break. So I hadn't realized how tired I was. I think, you know, the day I came back to England, I don't think I've really stopped, you know, for my two kids, being a single mum. And I don't think, I'd never really taken more than 5 days off. And I think that COVID, I stopped. And when I stopped, I could barely move. I was sort of sitting in my deck chair in the garden thinking, oh, wow, this is amazing. And I just sleep. And I meant to be writing a course. And I just like, wow, I spent that time just really recharging my batteries, feeling guilty if I hadn't done enough of my course. I'm sort of trying to get this online course together. I also decided I needed to look after myself. And so I began to look much more into my health, you know, I think, you know, like epigenetics and, you know, just looking at, you know, really maximizing my energy, just looking at the mitochondria and, you know, the internal workings of, it's just fascinating subjects, just how the body works, and looking at epigenetics and genes being switched on and off. And now I'm just excited about looking at that with animals, taking the work even further, using self-medication still, but looking at that side of things. So it's given me the opportunity to study more. So yeah, I'm really enjoying learning and studying and looking more into epigenetics and looking into, you know, everything. So, you know, just like, you know, the animal's got muscle wastage, looking at, you know, because essential oils aren't that great for muscle wastage, but something like glycerol is, you know, so when they're talking about fasting diets, if they want, you know, they recommend taking glycerol to stop muscle wastage opposed to burning fat. So it'd be quite interesting to see if there's a dog who's going through muscle wastage, would they select that? So it's sort of looking at all the other functionings of the body, really, and just looking at the whole package, still taking into self-selection, you know. Yeah, so anyway, I've been researching and reading and studying and learning, which will be in another course. And I applied a little bit to my last workshop, which I really enjoyed, doing something a little bit different. And it worked very well. But yeah, so I've also spent the time doing my online course as well, which is taking ages. I thought I'd finish it last year, but I'm still working on it. And I've written another little book, which is half esoteric and half scientific and also, well, quarter scientific, quarter esoteric and quarter educational. So it's a really good formula to work from. It's sort of, it's all color coded. So there's basically voices from the oils. So it's basically medicinal, voices from the oils on one side, so the plant, so it's almost like a little story, but in a paragraph. Then there's the more scientific research and my observational research summarized into a paragraph, so it's like a little pocket book. And there's color coded, so you've got, say that Yarrow does 3 main things. It works with behavior, for emotional release, it works urinary and wounds. So you've got 3 boxes up there, different colors. And then each box has its companions for that. So if you're working with behavior, then you're working with rose. Generally, yarrow will help with rose, it will help take the animal deeper, or linden blossom, it will take it deeper. But if the animal's selecting mainly wintergreen or birch or St. John's wort, then he's obviously selecting remedies for pain. And if he selected yarrow with that, so you've got your little group where yarrow belongs. So if they're selecting yarrow, then you can try which group to find out why they're selecting yarrow. And then also sometimes, say you're looking at stomach, and there's this might be clearer. So you've got stomach and you've got peppermint and you've got fennel. Well, it might either be peppermint or fennel as the digestive, or black pepper as the digestive stimulant. So you're offering all 3 to see what matches that individual the best. And it may be that 2 of those all support each other, or one might replace the other. So you get that lock and key to getting the correct oil for that individual to get them well as soon as possible, if that makes sense. And then those color codes will be put on the labels on the bottle. So it'd be split up a lot more, so you can see respiratory. So yeah, so I'm trying to make it more educational so people can really understand it, and have that balance of esoteric science and education all in a little pocket book. So wow. I'm almost finished that. And yeah, so that's where I am. So yes, I've been doing that, but I've also been enjoying being a little bit of a homemaker as well. And I've been trying to I have actually made my house very nice, because it's it just got left behind for years, and it was so much fun, just making it look nice, and also doing the course as well. So yeah, and how has it affected the business? It's shop's been really busy, so that's been really good. Our biggest problem is Brexit. That's been a nightmare, and everybody's now tightening up hazardous things that can be sent, and it's getting so expensive with the post. So that's a bit of a nightmare, that it's no longer a fun cottage industry that you can, it's become very not industrial, maybe the word, you've got to have, even on Angelica now, it's coming in, you've got to have hazardous goods on a little bottle of Angelica, and all the labeling for that, and then you can only use a couple of couriers, and then the insurance is so high if essential oils are on the plane, because they come under hazardous goods. So all of this new legislation seems to really be coming in, much more so than it ever was before. And then trying to get, just an example, we sent some really big boxes of products over to France. Same things in two of the boxes. One was bigger than the other, both within the weight. One customs guy decides it can go through, no reason. The other one decides to send it back, no reason, just decides it. And it's like, so yes, we've had a lot of that since Brexit. I think a lot of happy people who just send the stuff back, and I know I'm not alone as a company with that. So it is getting very, very, very sort of industrialized, the whole industry. There's so much that you have to do now with the oils. So it's a huge job in itself. But it has been incredibly busy as well. So we've got a lovely girl who works for us, and who's very good, very efficient. And as far as teaching goes, I've been doing lots of treatments actually. I've been treating elephants in Thailand, and treating dogs, treating cats, so yeah, I've been doing loads of Zoom treatments, which I've really loved. So I feel I've been pretty busy between doing up the house, trying to write my course, enjoying the deck chair last summer. And yeah, so COVID lockdown's been, in a way, it's been sort of almost like being in a little nest, really, and getting things done. I feel sorry for people who've gone through awful hardships, and my heart definitely goes to them. But for me, it was just really nice to stop and reflect and see and educate myself a little bit more on the subject I absolutely love.
Well, I've always believed that animals are like angels sent from heaven. They're like guides, to teach us something on this earth. And it could be, different reasons, from the animals that we eat, or fly by, or we rescue, and we try and help heal them. Sometimes they do pass on, and I always feel that even in their passing, we're meant to learn something.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't help but feel that animals, the work that you do, it's almost like the animals are coming to you to help teach the world, the beauty and what nature is. If we just, like you keep saying, if there wasn't so much red tape,
it's a shame. I think we're our own worst enemies.
With all these rules, and I call it bullshit rules, that I think human beings, we, especially in the industrialized age, with all this commercial big pharma companies, it's a lot to do with money and profit than quality and actually helping humans or animals heal naturally. It's always about money. And something which I've been trying to explain to people, that you can take supplements, if they're whole food supplements, they're there'll be an efficacy there. But if you took supplements that are synthetic, because I didn't know anything, because I came with zero knowledge, and I learned the hard way, because I wasn't a very healthy person. And I used to like, they'll tell me take this, take that, and buy these supplements from the pharmacy and whatnot. But I realized, like, I would get a reaction, even from the vitamin C tablets and stuff like that. So I always thought that, it's like, am I cursed or something? Is my body so screwed up? And it wasn't until I got really sick for a very long time, and then a friend of mine took me to a traditional Chinese medicine Chinese doctor, and actually helped me kickstart my journey on healing my body and detoxing in a very, very long way. This is more than, I think, 20 or I don't know how many years ago. But I was very sick. I had brain fog, and I mean, now I know what I had. I mean, in the sense that I had gynecological problems, I had digestive issues, my gut brain was not talking, so I had brain fog in the worst possible way. So I was literally a stupid person, and when I started to take TCM and take the herbs and food therapy in terms of, like eating properly or better instead of ultra processed food, which I was doing. I used to smoke a lot and drink a lot as well. When I started to clean up my act, suddenly one day I started to be able to think a little bit better. My mood sort of improved. My health started to go up instead of down and be stagnant, because I struggled with depression for very, very long time. I mean, I still manage it, but it's this journey of healing, and getting better, more than 20 years. And I realized if we just listen to our bodies, if we just took things simpler times, more natural. And what I love about how you do with animals and self-medication is, you trust the animal to self-select, to heal. And if we learn from them, life would be so much better.
But I also trusted my children and my babies. I worked exactly the same way with them.
Wow, really?
Yeah, anyone who can't have a voice, it's the most amazing medium. So my passion is to have a voice for those that don't have a voice. So I have a voice for animals. So it goes even further. I am quite into animal welfare. So I'm very passionate about that. My heart goes out to animals who are trapped and who don't have a voice and who can't escape. So I'm very passionate about animal welfare. But equally, it's this way to work is brilliant for when somebody can't communicate what they need. And I worked with my daughter as a baby with severe ear infections in a way that aromatherapists would have hung, drawn and quartered me for, because I was so against the book that, hey, guess what? My daughter got better, and she basically had ear infections, and she was 4 months old, and I was in California, and they wanted to put her, well, they did put her on antibiotics, didn't work. I guess the oils didn't work, I just massaged her some. And then they put her on more antibiotics, didn't work. So she wanted to put her, the pediatrician wanted to put her on steroids, and I thought, no, she's only 6 months old, and she's been on antibiotics for about 2 months. So I got my husband and I did muscle testing, because I didn't know how to work without muscle testing in those days, in that era. And anyway, she responded to rose, tea tree, and German chamomile. So the oils speak to me. So rose says go on the body, yeah? So I put that in a massage oil, and I massaged her little body with rose. German chamomile is an anti-inflammatory. It doesn't work so well when you mix it in a base oil. So I put a little bit behind her ear, and you know if it's needed because it will just drink in. If it's not needed, it will stay in the ear. It's not irritating. And I put it on the outside of her ear, and it just disappeared in seconds, the German chamomile. So she needed the anti-inflammatory, just at the base of her ear. She soothed into a lovely sleep, and then I took her to the doctor at the end of the weekend. This was the Friday. Took her to the doctor on Monday, not the pediatrician, because I didn't want to get done for child abuse. So I had given her this sort of, and more antibiotics. And so I said to the doctor, look, I'm going back to England. Can you check her ears? He said, they're pink and healthy. I said, how pink and healthy? He said, very pink and healthy. And so I called up the pediatrician and I said, well, actually, because I didn't want to then get upset with me because I'm not rebooking in to go back. And I said, I've got the all clear from the doctor. And she was really upset, hung the phone up on me. I said, you suggest I use that doctor. She did write a letter of apology, but Maddie never again had an earache, and she's now 28. My children have never been on medicinal, any sort of pharmaceuticals at all. And they're one's in his 30s and the other's late 20s. So they've grown up with natural remedies, but I've always used self-selection with them. There was a time my daughter wanted to be like the other kids and have the Tylenol, you know, the pink sort of headache medicine. And I was like, oh, this is a bit boring having mum's natural remedies. But she now really appreciates the fact that she grew up with natural remedies, and they're pretty healthy. So yeah, and she never had an earache again. So I wondered if she would have been this victim of glue ear or, you know, ear infections if she had just kept taking antibiotics, because they weren't working anyway. So, and then, yeah, I always felt pretty safe having the oils there, just because I knew I had my safety net, you know, that if there's some, because I lived a bit in the middle of nowhere when I lived in horse country. So we were miles away from a doctor anyway. And when I say miles, about 40 minutes by car, but it felt a long way. Yeah, so no, it's yeah, it's been a lifesaver, and also it's so amazing not having your hands tied. You know, when my dog got bitten by a rattlesnake, I could do something. I didn't have to sit and watch him die. You know, and that's the feedback I give so many people. You can do something, you can offer something, and you can see if you can help them. And the bond, you know, if you look at my video on Tom that I've just put up on my consultation page, or it's on my Facebook page, you know, she writes back and said the bond that she has with her dog is huge, since she's been working with the thuja, the lemon and the bergamot, and you know, the one where the tumours are reduced to half their size in 5 weeks, just on inhalation, nothing by mouth.
Wow.
Amazing. And nothing touching his gums. Yeah, it's all inhalation.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's amazing. And when you know this knowledge, when you have it, then it's my responsibility to let the world know, and people can take it or leave it, really. You know, I mean, I can't make people take it on board. It's frustrating when you get people like the Skep vet who will, if people are sitting on the fence, make them for the other side of the fence. The other thing is, when you said about what hurdles, which is also frustrating, you know, when I got asked to speak at Hay Festival, which is a lot of fun as well, which is a big literature festival in England. And then I was asked to talk on BBC Radio. Forethought was the channel. The amount of vets that called up and said, absolutely disgraceful that they had a non-vet talking about the subject. Why not listen to how an animal heals itself? You know, if you're a vet, wouldn't you want to know? Wouldn't you want to at least discuss or go into dialogue with me? Wouldn't you want to just, you know, the amount of vets who've been skeptical that I've called up to try and begin dialogue with them, they won't talk. And a scientist should talk. There should be discussion. The only way science can move forward is with discussion. Mm-hmm. And you know, and go into a debate. I'm so happy to debate with anybody this work, and yet they won't come forward and debate anything with me, and they will just run it down. And I think that is so unprofessional, and I think it's so unscientific, and I actually think shame on these people for having such a high standard, such as a Skep vet, and putting out such bad press when he knows nothing about the subject and hasn't engaged in any dialogue with me. You know, shame on him, really. What can I do? You know, surely it's libelous, you know, but I just think I don't want to get involved in, you know, anything that's heavy duty, really. But I just think, God, when you leave this world, you realize how many animals you probably harmed by you deterring people in the wrong direction. You know, be it on your head what you're doing. I think that animals have given me a voice into how to use the oils correctly. Because to be honest with you, I'm exactly the same with people and animals. So, you know, I don't need to have loads of animals in my house. People think I'm a real animal person. I wouldn't say I'm an animal person, and I wouldn't say I'm a person. I'm an everybody person. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of, I have empathy for any individual that suffers, be it a pig, a dog, a baby, or a person who's trapped, a person that can't escape. And my empathy is equal to all of those. I had, yes, I've had loads of really good friends, love the good friend people, but yeah, have taken advantage. I've had my eyes closed with other people, yes, and I've sort of learned how to be strong because I thought everybody was, other than my family, was really, nice and honourable. So, so yeah, I've seen the sort of dog eat dog world since I've been doing this work, but at the same time, it's I wouldn't. A lot of people think that I'm an animal person, but I'm equally love babies. I adore babies, and I love children, and I love people, and there's no different. When I look at a cow, I see a person. When I look at a dog, not all dogs, I see a person. So there's no difference. That's why I'm into animal welfare, because I believe we're born in many different disguises, and we have many different journeys, and that we might journey as a cow, a sheep, a dog, a pig, a human, and whatever our expression is and where we journey, we have to live under the rules of the what we're born into, and a dog, you have certain criteria because that's in the DNA. A horse, another criteria. A human, another. In a human, we have the greatest ability to show compassion and to help on the planet than we do a dog or an animal. It breaks my heart when I see a farm animal. I can't barely walk past the cows that are never let out, or hearing the sheep cry because they've been taken away from their mums, or hearing the cows cry because they've been taken away from their mums, hence I'm vegan. I don't like any cruelty to anyone. I'm equally disturbed when I hear of sex slaves, poor girls coming over from Europe, and they're shuffled off and locked into rooms. That is awful. So my compassion is to everyone that suffers equally.
Yeah.
So I don't need to live in a house with lots of cats. I have one dog, and after that one dog goes, I have her because I live in a house that suits her, and suits the countryside, and I can give her a good home because we have beautiful walks here, and it's quintessentially English cottage in the countryside. But after that, because it's difficult getting her looked after, I probably won't have any animals, because for a while, so I can travel, I'm looking at getting a place in the Peloponnese. I might spend time in the Peloponnese for writing, come back here, do teaching. I think the passion I have is that the oils are medicines and they're not used correctly, and that people are using them incorrectly when you've got this incredible medicine. And people have, to be honest, a lot of the aromatherapists have put so much red tape on it that people have to now go to conventional medicine when we have the medicine that can heal us, that works with us. And so, and with our bodies and with our chemistry and with our physiology. So I'm no more into animals than I am to people, and no more into people than I am to animals. They're all one. I've had, in my teenage years, I have fantastic friends at boarding school, best friends. I love people. And I love people who are nice. I don't like the ones who stab you in the back. So no, a lot of people think I'm just an animal person. I'm not. I love animals, but not, every animal is just like saying I love people. And there's some animals you warm to more than others. There's some people you warm to more than others. But I don't see a difference. That's the thing. They're all the same.
There's a term for a person like you in Asia culture. in the Buddhist tradition is a bodhisattva.
Yeah, I've got a lot of Buddha philosophies. And that's in California. I did study philosophy, and I'm very into philosophy. So I want to start writing about philosophy too.
Yeah.
So I'm very much into philosophy. So really, I suppose, I mean, I don't mind if you tape any of this, because it's really where I am now. And I suppose since COVID, it's taken me to different levels of thought. And that's why I needed to stand back and do things like, do my house up, because you meditate when you're doing those sort of things, and educate myself more in things and philosophy, and I would like to write a completely different book, which it will have the journey. It will have the journey of being trapped in Thailand, and actually an even bigger adventure that unfolded from there. And it will be more encompassing of, it's like so many people I see, they're really into dogs, yet they're eating the lamb. And I'm thinking, but it's all the same. They suffer the same. They're the same sentience. I'm actually a member of the, I get the scientific Sentience magazine, which Michael Hoffman sort of introduced me to. And, there's, a lot of research that lambs have the same visual intellect as primates. They can recognize hundreds of different faces. They can find themselves out of mazes. And it's only because they are so sweet and so kind that we walk over them. So my new book is sort of, I'm looking at evolution, and I'm looking at how people behave. And I'm thinking how, evolution always picks on the weakest, and the sheep are kind and weak, and they really get a rough deal, and people overlook them. They're beautiful animals. And I don't like seeing anything that's really farmed, because, would we like to see people farmed? No. So my compassion is even, yes, there's one passion with the oils, which is all about, hey guys, we got this medicine, and that can heal you if you use it right, but you've got to take all this red tape off. And then on the other hand, I've got this, what are you doing? How can you be into one animal and not the other? And, how can you just segregate one animal, and it's okay to adore that animal, but, subject another to a lifetime of suffering? And the fact is, a lot of people don't realize that, animals that only give birth to one or two offspring have the same maternal bonds as we do, as elephants do, as dolphins do, because nature, evolution has it that way, because that mother has to be really bonded to that individual to look after them for at least a year, if not longer, opposed to a litter. A litter is what, so many months, and they can get pregnant, and the energy is invested more in reproduction than in looking after the young. You take a cow away from its baby, or a horse, a foal, or a sheep who only has one or two, it's responsible for so much horror and so much suffering. The cruelty that is behind the doors of the abattoir is unthinkable. And if we don't like looking at the dogs being eaten in China and in the cages, then we shouldn't like anything else. And so my passion is truth. Look at the truth. Look at what you are doing, and are you really okay with it? Don't think, oh, I don't want to talk about that because, oh, I don't want to see that. Why not? See it and make a change in the world. So that's my other passion. I very rarely talk about it because I don't want to ruin, and that's why I rarely talk about my personal life, because I don't want to ruin the status of where I've got the oils to, because it's just sort of getting that respect. But yeah, there was a very tough journey getting there, and yet my frustration is that people don't, and if they even say, oh, I don't eat meat much, just if I feel I need it for health. No, it's not about you. It's about you stopping suffering. It's like, you can get by, just, you can get some other vitamins, you know, you don't need it. You don't, and then people will talk about evolution. And this is what my book's going to be about. We don't have to follow evolution. And my whole book is going to be about divorcing from evolution, detaching from evolution. You know, evolution is cruel. There's you know, evolution is magnificent. You know, look what it's designed. It's clever, it's intelligent, it's beautiful. And it's very much into procreation. That's its main interest. Zero compassion. Zero. There is no compassion in evolution. And a lot of people behave in a very, and the cycle goes on. You know, the bacteria is competing with the what's it called, the fungus. You know, everything's always competing, and you know, we're competing with each other. It's all survival of the fittest. You know, we do it in business. You know, stab people in the back, desperate to be the one to get there first, to be the strongest. You know, people go, you know, they're looking at their mate, you know, what she looked like, you know, not what she like, what she looked like, you know, or what does he do, not what does he like. You know, it's all about survival. And so my idea of enlightenment is detachment, to detach from evolution. So you don't have to keep coming back here. Of course, evolution is going to have medicines because it wants people, plant medicines, because it wants people to procreate. Because evolution wants you to be here. And I think for as long as the soul is attached to the physical things of this earth, they will keep coming back. But as soon as you don't play the game of evolution, then you disappear, then you don't have to come back. So that is my book. It's going to look into philosophy. It's going to look into truth. You know, for people, find the truth. If you find the truth, then that is the best thing you can do, is to be a truth seeker, and don't turn your back. And I look at that with the oils. You know, don't get caught up in all this red tape. Look at the truth. Look what can be done. You know, don't get caught up what people say on the website. You know, where's all the dead cats from essential oils? Can you find it? No, because hasn't happened. You know, maybe they've got a bad reaction because somebody's put tea tree on their back. So look into that. You know, but that's because it's not self-selection. Somebody has overdosed the cat. So providing the cat is selecting itself, then they're not going to overdose. So, you know, everybody is so, you know, just, you know, or listening to the internet, not thinking of you know, of really what is the truth, and just, you know, taking it as an absolute, and you know, not finding out what really did happen, how much tea tree was put on that cat, how many days, you know, did the cat lick it off because it's a poison if it's not needed, you know. So don't blanket all the oils under the same brush. So I suppose the real me, and I'm quite happy for you to do any of this interview and cut the other, because the other was probably more the old me. This is more the me that has probably morphed into every day of my life. I think on philosophy, and I spend a lot of time thinking and watching, and so it's not only, you know, looking at human behavior and, you know, how they respond to different things, and how they can only just sometimes, it's fine, you know, if they are just into one animal, I guess at least they're helping the animal, but they need to at some point branch out and realize that the others cry and they scream. Yeah, I hear cows scream when their babies are taken away. It breaks my heart. And yeah, you know, so it's not because it's not just putting them under a bracket of animal, it's the bracket is all of us together. I don't segregate. Does that make sense? I don't segregate people and animals.
You are looking at unity. I mean, there's this term unity, or, you know, universal oneness. Yeah. And what I find what you're talking about is very fascinating for me, because I've been on a spiritual path myself and thinking a lot. And not that I'm trying to compare my life with your path and my path, but I see a little bit of similarities in your story with mine. You know, not the drama. Not I don't have children. I'm not married. Well, I never married a handsome surfer. I never married a handsome surfer. That's all I can say. You know. But I mean, like my parents came from humble backgrounds, but they became successful. Like
Yeah.
you know, and my father could send me to England to study. So I went to
Yeah.
boarding school in England. I don't really share that with a lot of people.
Which one did you do?
Rodine in Brighton.
I know, really, yeah.
So which one did you go to?
And that day, I don't know if it stood around then because it's closed now, but Ancaster House, and I used to play hockey against Rodine.
Okay. Yeah, so all right, so you in South Sussex area. I mean, well.
Yeah, Bexley-on-Sea.
Okay.
How old are you?
I am people ask me this question and I pause. I think I'm 47. I was born in 1974.
Okay, so the people I know you wouldn't have known them. So, yeah.
You're in your 60s now?
61.
61. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely we were in different generations,
Exactly.
but
was cold. Your sports pictures, my legs would be freezing. There was such a wind would come off the cliff.
Yeah, Brighton. Yeah, Rodine was a very windy school. I remember I almost got blown off because I would walk like from Lawrence House when I was in sixth form to the main building, and it's a walk. And once you pass the hedge, and I'm like about 5 foot. I'm like a hobbit. I'm a hobbit. And I remember trying to carry my books and my files, and I literally got blown off, and everything flew off and down the snow. And you know, it was just one of those very surreal moments when I went, what the hell is going on? You know, it was like one of those, oh man, cartoon motions where you actually see a person moving, you know. And I used to have to cling onto the bigger girls, you know. But even then they would get pushed off, you know, because the winds were really, really strong. And I spent sixth form in Rodine, so there was 2 years there. And then after that, I wasn't a very good student. I had problems with studying because I just had family problems, and they affected me in a very bad way. So I had difficulty studying. So I didn't do well my A levels. I think I got a B. I think I got a B for ancient history. I studied ancient history, but I didn't really study ancient history. That's the thing. I didn't study for it. I enjoyed it. I'm just one of those students that I cannot be forced to do something. If you force me to study, I will not study. You know, I'm a very difficult child. Let me put it this way. I was a very difficult child. So ancient history, I enjoyed. I love reading. I love Roman history. I like Greeks. I mean, like, you know, give me a broken stone and rubble that I'm in my happy place. You know, I think if no one forced me, I would probably have been an archaeologist or something like that. You know, I just love adventure and exploring, and you know, a very wondrous life. I think that's me. If I had my way. Unfortunately, I didn't have my way, so I was extremely screwed up, rebellious. I was very repressed. I had a lot of repressed anger as well with my family. So I didn't do well, but I went to SOAS. I don't know if you know SOAS, School of Oriental and African Studies in London, to do history. But then because I struggled with depression, so I was a university dropout. And from history, I was studying East Asian history, but then because of my mental illness, I just couldn't do it. And then I wanted to do art, so I didn't tell my father. I actually secretly enrolled at Central St. Martin's to do a foundation course. I actually got in, which was quite amazing because I didn't think I would get in. but yeah, I got accepted for foundation course at Central St. Martin's. And then I went back to Singapore to tell my dad. I was prepared to get disowned. But I think it was the first time he actually saw me do something like this, that he went, okay, if this is what you really want to do, okay. Because he's a very chauvinistic man, very old school. He's a barrister. He trained as a barrister in England.
Yeah, okay.
And so he's a lawyer in Singapore, and they do barrister, advocates and solicitors, the same thing. And he always had the impression that either I'd be a lawyer, which I didn't want to be. I purposely screwed up the interview at, I can't remember which university it was. I think it was Oxford Brookes or something, because he desperately wanted me to be a lawyer to take over the law firm or whatever, right? And I went to the interview and I told the interviewer, I said, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I'm here against my will. So I sabotaged my own interview. A very bad thing. I never told my father this. I just made him think that I didn't pass. Because I really didn't want to be a lawyer. Because in my head, my father, he's a complicated man. I would say he loves me in his own way, but I would say his moral compass, it was a bit off. And I just had this impression that if I became a lawyer, I'm going to end up like him. So I didn't want to end up like him. I had a very, very, very complicated relationship with my parents. And so I went to Camberwell College, which is another art college, after my foundation year, to do it's almost like fine arts, graphic design kind of thing, arty-farty kind of stuff, which I really enjoyed. And then I was doing well, but then I injured my back when I was in Singapore, and I started to develop gynecological problems, and your gut-brain axis, that's where I really screwed up, because I was also working part-time as a student in Singapore and in London with the same company. It was like a lifestyle art consultancy thing, and so a lot of smoking and drinking and entertaining guests. So it was a very unhealthy lifestyle. It was a very materialistic lifestyle, very expensive lifestyle. And I think I was just a very unhappy person, just living that lifestyle. And I think my body was just reacting to my unhappiness as well. And obviously I disrespected my body physically. So my body physically broke down. And I had such severe depression that I basically dropped out of school because of my back. I injured my back very badly. So I think it's 6, 7, 8 kind of thing. My disc all, and for many, many years, I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. Like I said, I was a zombie, literally, an idiot kind of person. Even reading was difficult for me, but when I started to do TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, and start the process of healing, and I started to journal, I started to read a bit more. And then I started to go, especially in the last couple of years, and COVID last year. I love COVID. I know some people don't like COVID, but I am so grateful for COVID, because it gave me the chance to really look into myself and study.
That's what I did.
But a similar path for yours is that, well, I actually walked away from my father and my mother. My parents are divorced. They are both successful in their own ways. It's just that they're both, number one, I don't think they should ever have gotten married. Some people shouldn't get married and have children. That's all I can say. They don't have that. Yeah, it's just very bad for the offsprings. And I walked away from that lifestyle, that link of money, because my parents did try to use money as a controlling factor as well for me.
So that sounds quite similar, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's why I said when you were sharing your story, I just had, oh my goodness, what is going on here? but
And mine was very controlling as well.
and well, I wasn't homeless to the sense with like you and kids, you know, in the shelter, but basically,
I just avoided the shelter
yeah.
and I found, that's when I found Hay on Wye, and I could find a non-expensive house that was lots of character, made of stone, and actually there's another story there, but hey.
Yeah, so for me, I was blessed in the sense that I could move out even though I couldn't work, but I had a friend, you know, and she was compassionate and kind like you in that sense, you know, like very just kind, you know, real pure kindness, you know, not expecting anything, and basically took me in. So she became like the sister I never had.
Yeah.
You know, like the family that I wish I had but didn't grow up with.
Tell me about it.
You know, not yeah. So I grew up with a lot of insecurity, without a lot of, yeah, it was just a very difficult childhood I had. No love, no security. My parents divorced when I was very young, you know. My father just used money to control me, you know. My mom, she is the type, she's very successful, but she's not made of mother material. She's not
She's not maternal.
no, she, if she was born a man, I should be a very successful man, you know. Really, but you know,
So you Singapore or origin? Is that where you're initially
yes.
from?
So I was born, I'm a first generation born Singaporean. My parents were born in Malaysia, which is just above Singapore. Singapore's a tiny dot. And my parents, after they went to England, and they're different paths, but they went to England to study at some point, and they came back to this part of the world. And they actually decided to move to Singapore to start their career. They got married, they, you know, and my brother and I were born, my younger brother and I were born. But yeah, so born here, but grew up in a very Western household, because my parents couldn't speak Mandarin. They only spoke English, because they grew up. My mother's born in 1941, so my mom's like 80. Yeah, my parents are like in their 80s, like late 70s, 80s now. And basically they grew up in at the point in time where, you know, the Commonwealth was very strong. And if they were taught that if you want to be successful, you must speak the Queen's English.
Yeah.
Or you're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to go far. You know, especially being an Asian. You know, and because they went to England to study, my mom on a scholarship, my father, his family sort of paid for him to get there, you know, to go to the bar. So they worked really hard, and I guess because they were pioneers coming back in those days, and I think in the 60s, you know, 60s, 70s, that's when, you know, it's really the opportunity for economic growth was there, and there was, like you said, no red tape. Very little red tape, so
Exactly.
things could happen, you know, which is very different from the Singapore today, which is a lot of red tape. You know, but I chose to walk away from my family, because I didn't want to be controlled by them. I didn't want to play by their rules and live under them, and because I was just extremely unhappy. So it took me a very long, more than 20 years. I think I'm 47, so my entire life to try and unfuck myself, is like, if I could use that word here, please, you know, just to undo the damage that, you know, yes, they did it to me, but in a way, I have to thank them when I look back now. If I didn't have them and go through all that crap, I wouldn't be at the stage that I am in life now, where I'm in a very spiritual way. I don't know how to explain it. You know, maybe you can understand it in a way.
Yeah, I do. I know what you're saying.
You know, if it wasn't for all that crap and nonsense, and yeah, I'm still working on myself. I'm not healed, I'm not perfect, I'm not 100%, but I'm a work in progress, shall I say. You know, and
but I think it's a journey. It really is. Yeah, it's a journey. And just when you think, I mean, I remember thinking before I left California and coming over here, I just thought, yeah, I got it all wild. I think I can figure out the spiritual, I understand everything. And then I suppose coming into lots of debates with my son, because he is very much into debating, boarding schools out of attitude. Yeah, he did go from, he did end up in boarding school, from the state school I put him in. And, but I think it was good for him. And, but he's, yeah, so, it would make me think. I love it. I love sort of debating with him, because then it would blow my theories.
I think it's intellectual stimulation. You know what I like? What I like, and I think what you like as well, is when you have a very open, honest conversation and dialogue with someone. You don't have to agree 100%.
No.
You can agree to disagree, but there is a level of respect and just willing to listen to both sides, and then you take it back and you sort of digest it, and you sort of like think about it, like, is there a point there? Or
and you take a seed that maybe you're thinking no, but actually you think okay, maybe, and then you put that seed of thought into your pot, and I think actually maybe, I think he's got something there. And then it sort of begins to shape a different thought process. And then for me in that case, I'm thinking, God, I know nothing. I know nothing about spirituality. I thought I had it all totally sewn up and I just knew the whole thing. So I spent ages, really got a script. I think I've been talking too much. And then I took, our annoying throat. And then I began to sort of look, into really just looking at evolution and how cruel it is. And, that actually, does God really exist here? Because really, could anyone have made something so horrible? And when people go on about lessons, and they say, oh, being all spiritual, I say, well, it's a lesson, you've got to go through it. Well, I understand that mine was a lesson to learn. Fine, fair enough. When you're on a spiritual journey, those are sensible lessons. But when you hear of that elephant being taken from its mum and it's screaming and crying and it's prodded day in and day out so it can be ridden on, when you hear of the Indian woman who gets raped by 4 men in front of her daughter and then thrown off a train, that's not a lesson. That's total and utter cruelty. There's a lesson and there's a lesson. What I went through was a lesson. Your journey sounds like a lesson too. But there's things that go beyond lessons. That, to put a bear in a cage all its life so it can barely move and its teeth are worn down. Really. Oh, sorry. Oh, my throat. The horror that some people have had to go through. When I'm okay. And then when a sheep rolls on its back, and birds peck its eyes out. Really? Is that because, that's what crows do? Where's the lesson in that? It's too much, it's too filled with horror. I don't see the lesson.
Have you heard of this Indian guru called Sadhguru? Have you heard of this man, Sadhguru? He's a spiritual teacher in India, and he's quite a big deal over there. And he just recently published a book called Karma, and he did another book called Inner Engineering as well. And he talks about being you are responsible for your own spiritual path, and he talks about karma in a very interesting way, where you're mentioning about the cruelty, the suffering of these animals, and he does talk about what is karma from a yogi perspective, from his point of view. And it's quite interesting. I don't know if you would be interested in reading his book, to just
Yeah, because I sort
digest on
of,
something.
yeah, I sort of, I know with karma, and but I think of the, all the, refugee camps. God, it must be horrible living in those refugee camps.
Mm,
Just imagine you've got kids there. My story is, God, I'm in heaven compared with, you've got sick children, you've got these public loos, and it's just unimaginable how they must be living. And yeah, that could be karma, but why put people through such horrible, lessons? I wouldn't teach my children through such cruelty. I would give them a little bit of a better lesson.
mm-hmm.
Um, for a 5-year-old girl to watch her mother be raped by 4 different men and then thrown off the train, it's like, it just seems like it's out of hand if it is karma. It's too, it really will mess that individual up. and and sometimes you see the most beautiful people, who seem to have the most difficult lives.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see the most annoying people who have the easy lives, who they just don't feel like there's a spiritual bone in their body. So yeah, there may be karma, but it's pretty cruel.
But his take on karma is not your I would say it's not the mainstream Western view on karma. It's slightly different. I have to reread his book a couple more times because I'm still digesting what he's saying. Sadhguru, SADHU, no, HGURU. I can send you the link, Sadhguru.
Okay, cool.
And you can check him out because he's quite different from some other spiritual teachers, because he talks about a lot to do with, you are in charge of your life, how you make of it, even your spiritual growth. And I'm still digesting it, so I'm not good at articulating it and sharing it with you, but it's something that you, because you have an interest in this, you might be interested in just listening to his point of view to see how you feel about it.
Yeah.
And what I love about you is that you're actually a very sensitive soul. You really are. You have a real gentleness and that universal love that you carry with you. It's
But
it's very rare.
there's a lion in there too.
Oh, definitely, to get where you are today, to overcome all the challenges that you've had, you must be made of steel. And I think in that sense, if it wasn't for your parents, maybe you wouldn't have that steel in you.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
I might have taken it easy, I might have sort of, because I was too shy to lecture. So, but I thought, no, Caroline, it's being really selfish. I'm thinking of me. Caroline, no, you've got to get out there, and it's not about me. It's about telling people how to help their animals. So, yeah. So I don't know. I think I valued friendships a lot because of it. I think, at school, my friends were like my sisters, and friendships meant a lot to me. And so the friendships I developed in my life were really, really deep and meaningful. And then I think when I just spent my whole life working, because I gave up all my friends, I gave up everything for this. And I think I was much too familiar with students, or, and I'd get confused, and because I think everybody was nice, and that is, and so that So you put yourself in a vulnerable situation because I was naive, because I had developed such good friendships that it was, you know, just like Martin was saying, you know, wow, you know, it's just way too friendly to these people. And and I found it really difficult to be any other way. And I thought, I don't know, you know, I try not to be friendly, but I couldn't, you know. And then I just thought, you know, if people want to use that to sort of stab you in the back, I thought maybe it's best I just remove myself from putting myself in those situations, and just find a slightly different path, because I can't change who I am. I can't suddenly not be friendly.
Yeah.
I'm not friendly if somebody's annoying, or, you know, or if they're not being very nice. Yeah, that's fine.
No, I understand. I mean, that's why listening to your story and your journey, it, you know, I just couldn't help but think like, oh, we might have some parallels, like, because I've got my family issues and I really did walk away. You know, I even like today, you know, I'm still finding my way, you know. But I've been very blessed somehow by the universe that I'm able to have a home. At least it's not a fancy home, you know. I live in a government housing, which is most very common actually, but I've got, you know, I've got animals to care for and good friends. You know, most of my friends are actually ironically, the really good ones are from boarding school days.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they're not even Singaporeans. One is, she's from Thailand and she's got a British passport, you know, and she's living in the US, you know, working in Silicon Valley now. The other one is Malay. She's you know, I don't see her because, you know, she's a lawyer, and she's got family, and because of COVID, we can't even travel.
Yeah.
But you know, it's very strange, the friendships that I made in boarding school, like the really close ones, and there's not a lot. I only have like 2 or 3, you know, that I can say that even if I have not seen them for years or talked to them for years, the bond is still there, that we can pick up, and there is this very deep level of trust.
It is, and I think it's inbuilt, you know, when you've developed those friendships at school.
Yeah,
it's so difficult to change.
and I think because they are probably my oldest friends, because they've known me since boarding school, you know, when I was a teenager, and that's my most vulnerable past, if you want to say it, you know, that's as far back.
You share everything, and
Yeah,
they become your sisters.
and they've seen you in all your nonsense crap. You know,
Exactly.
and but now, like today, even being back in Singapore, I mean, like, yeah, I have friends here, but I'm very careful with them, because I used to be very naive. I'm still actually quite naive, and you know, I've been too trusting, you know, and I've been taken advantage of by people as well. So I'm just very cautious with who, you know, what I share. I'll still share, but you know, like if I were to let you into my inner circle, very hard, you know, very, very hard.
Do you think I've said anything on this interview that might weaken my profile, or do you think it's okay?
To be honest, I'm a huge fan of yours. If anything, this interview has shown a dimension, yes, a private side of you that you've not shared, I think. Which I'm, again, very honored that you've done it here with me. But I think you would have a lot of respect from your peers and your followers, you know, because if there's one thing I've learned interviewing people, and I'm not a professional interviewer, okay?
You did pretty well, because it's really difficult interviewing people.
No,
Really
difficult. Thank you, but no, you did most of the talking. I did not. You know, I didn't really ask you a lot of questions, but I found that when you are willing to share and open yourself up the way you did, it shows a level of confidence.
Okay, Cool.
to people that say that, yes, this is me, this is my past, and I'm sharing it with you now. I'm being vulnerable. It's not the British thing that I know of, okay? Because my parents and me, I grew up in a very conservative household, all right? It's very English. And definitely you sharing maybe with certain parts of society, you might be horrified, you know, that, oh my God, why is she talking about all these things? You know, you shouldn't talk about these things. And I'm, in a way, I'm glad my mom doesn't know I'm a podcaster. My parents don't know that I do this, you know. But honestly, I think people who follow your work would have a greater respect for you. Because I know I do.
Okay.
And it makes me, if I may, you know, sound really like corny, but I do love you even more now. I really, I mean, you inspire me, and I believe that you will inspire a lot of people who listen in, who are drawn to this, you know, and your work, because a lot of people, they sort of hear, oh, you know, oh, Caroline Ingraham, wow, you know, she's this super lady who's done all this work and like a pioneer, and they just think that, I mean, like, honestly, before this interview, I thought you were just a workaholic, and you just, you know, pum, you know, churn out work after work after work, and you're just, you know, you're an amazing lady with animals, but you're just work, you know.
Yeah. Interesting.
But having, and again, that's why I said the universe has done something really amazing today for us to meet and have this conversation, because it has, if one thing, it has inspired me even more in my own personal journey, because I can tell you, I'm at a crossroads right now where, you know, I have no fucking clue what I'm doing sometimes, honestly, but I know it's something that is not normal, it's not conventional, it's not, you know, it's not your typical 9 to 5 kind of job person. And there's a, I don't even know what's the word I'm looking for. It's almost like it's spiritual growth, it's self-development, but at the same time, I want to help people who are helping animals. And I'm coming towards a path where, I don't know if you understand this term, like conscious caregiving. All right. That is something that I'm working on in my head, you know. It's like conscious pet parenting, conscious caregiving. And I want to teach caregivers, animal caregivers, you know, guardians, how to be a better human being, so that they can help the animals in a better way, in a more ethical way, in, you know, in a more self-aware way. I don't know if it makes sense to you, you know.
It does. And I think, you know, one thing my son said to me when he was a lot younger, he said, Mom, it doesn't really matter how much you've helped an animal or not. The most important thing is your intention. The intention to help is more important than anything else.
Correct.
And I thought, oh, that's quite wise.
Yeah.
And it's true, you know, that, so whatever your intention is, your intention, which was like mine when I said that prayer, whatever it was to work for the will of the good. I didn't know what they were going to put in front of me. Instead, you know, I got this, you know, like, oh my God, what's happened to my life?
Well, like, yeah, you know, and I don't know if you heard of this community called Mind Valley. I don't know if you heard of them. It's a closed community online where they basically, it's a self-education program. It's like a online school. And they talk about a lot of the woo-woo stuff, the esoteric, but also about science and basically self-actualization of the human body, spirit, and mind. So it's like, you know, the overall, you know. And I'm a member of Mind Valley. It's a paid membership, it's a closed community. It's not open to the public, but you can take the courses and stuff, you know. But the idea is that we believe in humanity, in unity, you know, we're all one. Is, and I use the word energy, we're all made of energy, vibrations, you know, animals and humans. and that we have a higher purpose in life,
Yeah.
you know. And I think one of the sentences that I like first for myself is that, you know, we're all spiritual beings here living an earthly experience,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
it really is up to you what kind of experience that you are creating for yourself. Because at the end of the day, and this is something that Mind Valley students, or you know, we all believe, is that you are responsible
Yeah.
for what happens to yourself, what you create, what you serve, what you think, what you say, you know.
Mhm.
um you have to be careful because you will manifest it,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
And your intention, and that's why the word conscious caregiving, being a conscious human being,
Yeah.
intentional living, you know, being. And that is something that I aspire to become,
Yeah.
that I
Yeah.
want to be a better human being. And I know I'm flawed, I'm a work in progress, you know. But somehow, with my love for rescue and animals,
Mhm.
I it's like almost I'm seeing something coming together with my passions, you know, my interests. And that is really like, it's like I want to teach people how to be a conscious human being and be a caregiver for animals.
Yeah.
Because I feel that honestly, most rescuers that I've met and I know are all screwed up. They all have mental issues that they're not dealing with. They're
Mhm.
using rescue work as a crutch. And
Mhm.
sometimes their ego leads them to actually harm the animal, then instead
Yeah.
of helping them.
I call them wounded healers.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's a very good phrase, you know.
Yeah. They
And
need to be needed and they need to be loved.
yes, and unfortunately, I think human beings today, um, we don't know self-care. We don't know how to love ourselves. You know, we are so caught up in the red tape, as you like to call it,
Yeah.
you know, the lies that's created by big pharma, by, you know, commercial industry,
Yeah.
uh you know. And you know, even like I have my views on the vaccination for COVID as well. I don't even call it vaccination, you know, I just call it DNA manipulation. It's just an injection of something that, you know. Yeah, so, you know, I just feel that my path is still not fully formed yet, but the
Mhm.
more I study and think and reflect and learn, it's like, you know, it's like I'm merging somehow what I love, you know,
Mhm.
my self study plus my animals. And you know, when I see adopters, when I see rescuers, you know, how screwed up they are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. It's amazing.
And
How-
I love this conversation we've had today. You know, I don't know if you realized it, but we've actually done more than 3 hours, I think.
My partner keeps walking about fast, thinking, "Oh, you done?"
So again, that's why I'm very grateful that you were so willing to share your time, because I know
Well,
how long a day you've had, and you said you've been very tired and talking so much to me, you know.
yeah.
And that's why I'm very, very grateful that you actually chose to speak to me and share so much, you
Well,
know.
I hope it made sense, and I didn't. Yeah, just being a bit tired. I hope I was able to articulate what I was trying to say.
How did you, I mean, like, just turning the question back, how did you find this interview?
Yeah, no. At first, yeah, because it's not one that I normally do. You know,
Mm-hmm.
going back into my, first of all, I thought, yeah, I did think my first thoughts were, yeah, good on you that, you know, you're looking behind the scenes. And then I thought, yeah, that's going to be quite fun actually, because nobody really knows my backstory. But then I realized that I wasn't really that, because I haven't really spoken about it that much. I really felt I didn't feel very versed in being able to, yeah, maybe second time round, I could consolidate it to be, to express much more what I'm trying to say, or I might have maybe put things a little bit differently. Like if you'd said, what's your main passion, or, it's because I feel quite tired as well, then, it's just sort of the first thing that comes into my mind. Whereas I suppose going towards the end of the interview, I managed to sort of find things to sort of channel into just sort of saying, what my passion is, which is really to speak the truth about the oils. And through animals, I have a voice. And to tell people how they can help themselves, the animals, and their children. So it's more encompassing all. But my frustration is that the oils aren't being used to achieve their best possible outcomes. So I would have worded it more like that. If I had, once I warmed up into it. So I felt a little bit sort of green, I suppose, because I hadn't really sort of gone back. But also what was quite interesting was sort of going back and really sort of seeing, that was one journey. But now really after lockdown, it's sort of morphing into a new journey where I want to, I suppose it's, looking into philosophy, looking into writing other books that are also meaningful and also will help animals too, but in a different way. But it's sort of juggling the two. So my plan is, we've found a really lovely house in the Peloponnese, which is beautiful. So we're going to see it in August. Whether we get it, because there's 2 people who want it, and I think it's, it's gorgeous, and you can just sit under the table with grapes above you and look at the ocean and pine forest behind me, the ocean in front. It's a beautiful place to write. And I can still, because it's got internet, I can still do interviews. So I think, economy, I'd love to go there and do some, just the quietness and just really be able to write something really inspirational and to give, sort of the journey, the adventure, that you can do it. If you believe in something enough, you can create it. If I can do it, then somebody else can as well. But I think it was born out of this commitment to helping the wheel of the good. And then from there, something I rode on the crest of the wave that was full of synchronicity, that took me to places I could never have imagined. It's mainly any zoologists who get to work with elephants. Oh, I got it. It's sort of, I've been to places that I just think, wow, and teaching vets at zoos, and and it has been, it's so. I suppose in the talk, I sort of went full circle back to really where I'm going now, really, which is a bit of the 2 worlds. I want to have one foot in, always keep a foot in this world. That's what I'm trying to get all my courses done. So I want to give everybody every single bit of information I have. And I keep learning new things. So I think if I can just get all this information out, which is where I've sort of been to now, and then I can work on the new information, which I find incredibly exciting as well. But also, I'm passionate about writing my book, which is probably a bit more philosophical, inspirational, with adventure, with synchronicity. So I kind of sort of morphed into somebody then, when I was talking to sort of, then when I came to the end of my journey, it's probably who I am now. So where I'm going, so to speak. Does that make sense? So it was a really different, as everything that I'm really loving, but I felt I needed more experience speaking about it.
Well, that's why I think that's what I love about I call this long form interviews, because they're longer than you would think, because most people think half an hour, 1 hour, the max, usually for a regular interview, especially if you're talking about your professional work. If it's a professional work interview about the work that you do, is usually maybe like 45 minutes kind of thing. But because what my passion is to know the person behind the story behind the face of the company, because
Yeah.
I am interested. I love stories. I'm a story junkie, and I
And you're
always
not.
and I love and I want to understand what drives you, what inspires you, and to see behind the mask,
Mhm.
the facade that we all have.
Yeah.
And I found that the really good interviews, and it's not because I'm a good interviewer, really it's not. It's because people like you, the guests,
Mhm.
you when you go through the conversation with me and you go through the journey of your life, you actually live through that you actually transform. I don't know if you realize that, you go through a mini transformation in your own journey as you're articulating it and sharing with it, because then you see different things that you never actually realized,
Mhm.
and for me as the observer, it's very inspiring,
Okay, cool.
because then we see the real Caroline Ingraham. It's it's really showing everyone that, hey, you're a normal human being with normal problems. You had so much crap, happen to you, but yet you still had that faith, that
Yeah.
that positivity, that love, that compassion, that empathy,
Yeah.
to serve and for a higher purpose.
Yeah.
And to me, that is truly the message that I would love people to hear, is that when you have a higher purpose,
Yeah.
things come together, the synchronicities, as you keep saying.
You summed it up beautifully. That is it. You can just cut your little bit doing that, and then we'll do the whole interview.